to dig into this whole idea of how that data gets into the database and how it becomes part of the search, I want to cover how I scrape the data. Scraping's not that exciting or new, but part of this is just going to think about how do we use OpenAI to scrape the data. So in this example, a source. Also, I want to focus on like these ideas that there's sources of data and we can make plugins to get that data, just like they're doing in LangChain, where they have tools to get data and then process it. So in this case, we have source data. In this case, it's a website, but it could be a PDF. It could be a folder full of Markdown. It could be an API. And that website we use, say, Roach to scrape, or whatever tool is good. And it does its simple things. Now, the plugin could just be given a URL to start with, and it could be a plugin that focuses on scraping tables. So in this case, I was scraping a table. So the first part of this, I gave it the table, and then it passed what it got out of the HTML to the item class that they call it, and then it went over the rows. So again, the filter XPath was about the rows. So you see, this can be abstracted out, so it's pretty generic: page, table, and then rows. From there, it just passes the rows into a queue job. And that queue job is the next part to this way of handling data. Now, again, pluggable. The queue job expects data to document DTO, horribly named, whatever. But the point is a consistent pattern here where the next, the PDF is going to deliver the same thing, or the Markdown file. So when this job gets this one bit of data, there's enough information there to trigger the next possibilities, which I'll show you in a moment. In this case, it's passing a bunch of metadata, like these things that we're going to use later on called labels. So just some thoughts there. And the other thing too is like it's a ingress type web scrape, so maybe we listen to that. Or even easier, we're going to attach relationships to the document model where it has transformations, and one of those transformations we'll see in a moment. So now, again, the pluggable source could be an easy installation, and then that source is a web table. It scrapes it, and the person can just get going right away. And it saves it to the database. Again, the document, and there's so many ways to do this. I made a document one. It saves the status, the type, which I talked about before, web scraping. A GUID, which can be a URL. There's so many ways to do this. A project ID, because this is all about under the project model, which then can be in a team. The metadata, which can be generic relative to the type, and then the content. But instead of me taking this further, here's the cool part with OpenAI, is that I didn't want to go through this table, strip out all the particular bits of data I wanted. I just said, hey, OpenAI, get these things for me. And so in OpenAI, I passed in the labels that you see on the left, like we saw in that document model a moment ago, where I said, here's the labels I care about. So that could come from, again, a nice UI where people are setting up some things and they're just putting some things in that they want. And so OpenAI said, okay, I'm going to take this data and get those labels for you. So the prompt was quite simple. This is content in HTML that I would like to grab the following info for me. Using the prompt template, which is a library I already made, you can then put your prompts in there, and it can come out the other end to make a good prompt. So that's the nice part here, is I didn't have to go in the depths of web scraping, which I've done once or twice, and it's great when I finally get to the end of the path, but it is hard. And so yeah, we've now taken this data, transformed it, and saved it back to the database table. Now this is what it made for me, OpenAI. It took that data and turned it into this. Now I could have made it Markdown, I could have made it CSV, I could have done so much with it, and I could have done this in code, but again, like, we got to rethink how we approach these problems. And again, it could have been pluggable. I could have maybe installed this library, which does not exist, where it says take these labels and grab them from the HTML, grab them from the whatever the content is, the PDF page, whatever. So there's so much to think about here for how you can just do this. And once you install that, you could then use it as part of your process as a data object, or something that can help to unify the flow here. And that's basically it. It then turns it into vectors, which I'll show later on. And then after that, so it's kind of the vector part is is more of the transformation stage, which I'll show in a moment in the next video. And then after that, I'm just going to show how to make the chat part happen. But yeah, that's it. That's a quick look at how it helped me scrape some data, and then little bits in between I think could become great plugins or ways to think about. Like with LangChain for Python, they have these very consistent terminologies and methods for doing the stuff that they can plug in, and I would like to get to that place with Laravel.